Welcome to the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. This is Ralph Valenti, and this is our shoot or work episode where we take the weekly wrestling rumors, say shoot if they're going to happen, and work if they don't. Tonight's episode, we'll talk about Becky Lynch and her possible WrestleMania main event. And before we do, make sure you hit subscribe, that bell for notifications. We're trying to get to 1,000 YouTube subscribers before the Royal Rumble so that we can give you exclusive YouTube content. So what happened last Tuesday on SmackDown, very sad. Becky Lynch had to pick a replacement for Survivor Series, which we have not seen yet as we're recording this Sunday morning. She picks Charlotte Flair, and we're getting Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey at Survivor Series. But this could be a blessing in disguise, as they're saying now that Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey could be the WrestleMania 35 main event. Ralph, we're going to be there. We got our tickets. Shoot or work that this is going to be the main event at WrestleMania 35.
I'm going to say this is going to be a work. I think this is the match that we should get and we will get. I don't know if it's going to main event, though.
What would main event instead?
I imagine anything with Brock Lesnar, maybe AJ Styles, whoever's champion at the time. If it was Charlotte Flair, given her name and her prestige, I think that was the route WWE was going to go. I think we have to see if Becky Lynch can sustain this momentum going forward, which
I don't see how she does it.
Yeah, I mean, for all intensive purposes, she can't. A lot of people are comparing her broken nose and concussion and the way she was bleeding to Stone Cold Steve Austin when he was in the sharpshooter and passed out.
I don't know. See, I understand why they're making the comparison. I don't know if I agree with the comparison, though. You know, because when Stone Cold Steve Austin did it in that moment, he passed out, and that was part of the reason why it worked. Whereas Becky Lynch, yes, I get it. She uses it as calling it war paint and all that stuff, but it's not quite the same thing.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The thing that's going to determine if Becky Lynch ends up being the main event at WrestleMania is her ability to push the needle. Stone Cold Steve Austin, not because of that one specific moment where he passed out and was covered in blood, but his character alone took WWE from here all the way to the next level. Becky Lynch, her popularity maybe was here, and it's over here and based in the WWE wrestling community, but can she be a big draw outside of the WWE and attract new eyes to the product? I'm not so sure of that yet. Yes, she's probably having the biggest push, her best run she may have in her whole career. I don't know. Yes, I'm interested in seeing where she goes going forward. I love what they're doing with her. I love everything as far as her calling herself the man, all of that. I want to see her and Ronda. I think that's the match to go with at WrestleMania. I'm just not sold that that's going to be the main event.
Now, you talk about whatever match that Brock Lesnar's in should main event or could main event. We talked about this on our last episode where we were talking about Daniel Bryan's heel turn, that we could see AJ Styles versus Brock Lesnar. Maybe that's a long-term approach. But Ronda Rousey is just as big a draw, if not bigger, than Brock Lesnar, I think, at this point.
Yep.
So just by having her there, this could be the main event. And I'm going to say shoot on this. I think it definitely is going to be the main event. And I think with Roman Reigns gone, I think Vince McMahon sees Ronda Rousey as the next cash cow. I mean, we keep saying that he tries to put all his eggs in one basket. Yes, it works, but at the same time, it doesn't. But the way Becky Lynch is, she is the wrestling hero right now.
Yep.
Ronda Rousey is the marketable product for WWE to get casual fans, crossover fans, mixed martial arts fans. So I could definitely see that being the main event. I also see that WWE Creative has what could be at least 8 months of booking written in itself right now that they cannot screw up unless there's major injuries involved. And I say this because, now again, we're recording this Sunday morning, so we don't know what happened at Survivor Series yet. But you got Baszler, Shafir, and Duke. You have Banks and Bayley not involved in Survivor Series yet. You can have them interfere in this match between Ronda and Flair. And maybe Becky is cleared and she could get involved and maybe she attacks both of them. Who knows? But here's how I would book this. and I'll see how you want to book this too after I'm done, but you have Becky Lynch, when she's healed, she's the one that faces Nia Jax at TLC because Nia Jax does have the number one contender spot after winning at Evolution, the Battle Royal. Instead of going after Ronda, have her go after Becky Lynch. You already have the story there because it's Nia Jax that concussed Becky Lynch to force her out of this match. Becky Lynch wins. Now, if Baszler interferes in this match, guess what your Royal Rumble match is now? Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. Go to WrestleMania. You have 2 matches on that card. The first one is Becky versus Ronda. The second one is Charlotte, Banks, and Bayley versus Shafir, Duke, and Baszler. Then you go to Money in the Bank. Becky Lynch faces Shayna Baszler for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And on the Raw side, you have Banks versus Ronda. Go to SummerSlam. You have Ronda versus Bayley. And then Becky versus Duke or Shafir. And it culminates at Survivor Series, 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen, a year in the making. You're welcome, WWE. You can hire me anytime you want. I'm right down the road from where you guys are when I work, so feel free to do so. I just booked a year's worth of booking for you. It's that freaking easy. How would you do it?
I don't really have mapped out entirely how I do the whole thing. I just know I want to see Ronda and Becky. In terms of the main event at WrestleMania, I don't think that's going to be the main event. I do think that's the more logical match to have rather than Ronda versus Charlotte because I think if they have that match, I think they're putting themselves in a position where the fans will hijack it because they're going to want to see Becky Lynch in that spot. And we've seen what can happen when the fans get pissed off. Not that they should always get their way, but they're the ones that are paying. If they want to see Becky Lynch, let them see Becky Lynch.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to make this the main event. I mean, WrestleMania did sell out, and it's going to sell out just by the name itself. I understand that. But having the pre-sale happen the day after what Becky Lynch did, you have to make this the main event. Now, there are people that talked about this after SmackDown. Do you agree with her picking Charlotte?
No, not at all. I think they just came off a massive feud, and without getting into the whole thing, I understand why she did it. I don't agree with the way they went about it, hugging and all that stuff. If she had said to her, if anybody's capable of doing it, it's you. I'm only picking you because you took me to the limit, et cetera, et cetera.
They did do that, not on SmackDown, but did you watch the video that they put up?
I did.
Okay.
I could have done without the hugging because it essentially means everything that went on before that. It was kind of like,
not true. I mean, you see this with best friends, and we're brothers. We've fought before, and there's times where things get that heated that you're hating each other. I mean, I don't think it's ever happened with us, but that has happened. So at the end, they hug it out, and that's it.
I know. To me, I would, if they're establishing Becky as a heel, what I would have done is this. She could have went back and forth, went up to Charlotte and said, you're every bit as good as me. You're just as good as me. I know you can beat Ronda, but I'm not going to give you the satisfaction and have her go and pick Asuka. I think Asuka should be the one in that spot. I think
hasn't been built strong enough.
I know, and that's really unfortunate because the crowd really wanted that. You could tell Asuka wanted it. I think it's really unfortunate the way that Asuka's been booked ever since WrestleMania, really. I mean, she was a major player, probably had the second best match of the night at WrestleMania against Charlotte. I would be very careful about how you book Charlotte going forward because she's starting to kind of suffer from that Roman Reigns complex where she's seen as a product of the machine. And once you get labeled as that,
it's hard to come back.
It's very, very, very hard to come back from that. So I think Asuka would have been the better choice, but
let us know what you think in the comments below. Hit subscribe, notifications there. We're trying to get to 1,000 YouTube subscribers before the Royal Rumble. And if you want to talk about these topics on social media, use the hashtag #ShootOrWork and tweet us at SCPB Podcast. For Ralph Valenti, my name is Michael Valenti, and thank you for listening to the Squared Circle Psychobabble.